Hello, Sofa Squad, and welcome back to the damn sofa. And that's the sofa, and that's my sassy sidekick, Roscoe, back there. And my name's Paul. Now, what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be talking about this case that has taken place very recently. And I started looking into it today, and today is being Sunday, April the 10th. And I'm being very specific about the date because this is a very recent case. We don't have all of the information yet, but a lot of stuff has obviously transpired. And mostly what I'm talking about, though, is at the time of this recording, an arrest has not been made. So obviously this is kind of like a very headline-y, grabby kind of a case, right? It involves, we don't know right now if she is a victim who was defending herself or if she was, the perpetrator, right? But we do know she ended up taking her boyfriend's life. And her name is Courtney, and she was an Instagram model. She was a OnlyFans model, that kind of a thing. So obviously that, splashes across the news and stuff like that. So that being said, that's what we're going to be discussing today. Basically what I've done is I've just gone through, today I basically spent some time reading a bunch of different articles, that kind of a thing, looking into who she was, who he was, what the friends said, what the lawyer said, all this kind of stuff. So, and I'm pretty much at this point, I'm just waiting to see what happens. So we're going to go through that. What we'll do for this video is we're going to look at some different clips. We're also going to be going through some different articles, that kind of a thing. I am going to be referring to my notes right here on my computer. That's why I'm already looking over that way. So that's what we're going to be doing. Now, before we get started, I want to give a shout out to the Sofa Squad for making this channel possible. Thank you to everybody here for being such an awesome community, for being so respectful of the victims as well as each other. I really appreciate it. Y'all are amazing. And again, thank you for making this channel possible. It wouldn't be possible without any of you. And so that's it. Let's go ahead and start jumping in. And I'm just going to go ahead and switch over to my notes. That's what I was trying to say.
A man allegedly killed by his own girlfriend. So why hasn't she been charged?
The big question is here, was this done in self-defense? Police say in the past 3 months, they've responded to multiple disturbance calls at the couple's apartment.
So today we're going to be discussing Christian Toby Abumseli. Now that is the victim. Now this gentleman, he had moved to Miami. He was working in the cryptocurrency industry, and so that's where he was living. And his girlfriend, her name is Courtney Clenny, and she was the one, she was an Instagram model, the OnlyFans model, she was originally from Texas. And they had only been together for like a little less than 2 years, it sounds like. So they had been together. They were living in a luxury high-rise down in Miami. And honestly, like from the outside of their life, it looked like, this was like this perfect, gorgeous couple. He was very handsome. She was very beautiful. And they had this perfect life, right? And I think one thing that we're seeing so much of in a lot of these cases, a lot of times, but especially recently, honestly, I'm thinking right now of Gabby and Brian Petito, where you're seeing these lives that are kind of portrayed out on social media and whatnot, but then it's a different story beneath, right? And so that seems to be the case in this scenario. So I'm just going to kind of scroll down through my notes here a little bit so I can catch up with myself. So this was Sunday the 3rd that this took place. Now there was an alleged domestic situation at the house. Abumseli was rushed to the hospital and he would die of a single stab wound to the front of his chest. So now actually one thing that took place with this also, and I'm not sure who got this footage, but someone did who had maybe a bird's eye view or whatever, not a bird's eye view, but a very close view of her balcony. I'm going to play a very little bit of it, trigger warning. TMZ got the footage. They always get everything, right? And this was like after this attack or whatever. She's on her balcony. She is in a black bra. She's covered in blood. So I'm just going to play that very quickly. Okay, so her defense attorney is saying that she is a survivor of DV. And he actually released a statement, and I'm going to read what the statement says, and I'm going to quote it right here. So I'm just going to refer to my notes here. As Courtney struggles with the pain of being a survivor of DV and the aftermath of the events of that evening, we ask that the community and Christian's family allow the police and the state to conduct their independent investigation of the events. Frank Prieto said. That's the attorney. This is a tragedy for all involved. It was not criminal conduct. Courtney was defending herself, and the investigation will reveal exactly that, he says. And then it continues. The preliminary investigation determined that both Mr. Abumseli and the female had been involved in a physical altercation, Miami police said in a statement. Okay, so let's just break that down for a second. The preliminary investigation determined that both he and the female had been involved in a physical altercation. Okay, now we're going to be looking at a clip here in a minute of some eyewitnesses, if you will, that definitely will play a part in this. But I'm also wondering what some of the physical evidence will show. So let's do this. Let's take a minute. Let's listen to what some of the friends of them had to say, as well as a neighbor.
This trio was very close to 27-year-old Christian Obumseli and his girlfriend, who they've identified as 25-year-old Courtney Clenny, an OnlyFans model and Instagram influencer. They portray a very violent relationship at the hands of only one person.
I've seen her hit him. I've never seen him hit her.
Officers say there was a struggle before Obumseli was stabbed in the shoulder. He died at the hospital. Investigators are still trying to figure out what happened and if Clenny acted in self-defense.
From what we've personally experienced between the both of them, we believe that Christian wouldn't put her in a position where she would need to stab him to protect herself.
Okay, now this clip I find extremely interesting, right? Because essentially, let's just kind of repeat what they just said. They are saying that they have seen her come at him, her hit him, but not vice versa, and that from what they know of this couple, that he would not put her in a position where she needed to defend herself with a knife. So this is very telling. These are people that know them. Now, again, do I know these people? No. Did I know the victim? No. Did I know her? No. Okay, so there's that, right? I mean, we can only know what we can know, and we can only take words so much at it. We don't know if they have a bias, if they were mostly friends with one or the other. You know what I'm saying? I don't know this personally. If you know, drop it in the comment section, please. But nonetheless, it is very interesting to hear these kind of words coming out of their mouth. Now, on the flip note, let's listen to what a neighbor had to say.
One neighbor who tells me that he has a very clear view of the couple's apartment said a week before the stabbing, things were off and that Clenny was the one getting physically abused.
I could not tell if it was open-handed or closed-handed, but he was swinging at her. Okay,
so now here's this. Now remember, this is a week before, and we're going to go over some information about things that have been happening and leading up to this, because this was not, it didn't sound like this was, a very healthy relationship regardless, right, of who's to blame or whatever. There was turmoil is what I'm getting at. So, yeah. Now, the fact that this guy is saying that he saw this physical altercation, I do not know if this is the guy that had the video of her on the balcony that he got to TMZ, right? I don't know that. But regardless, let's continue watching the clips here real quick.
Even though that we really lost Christian only, it feels like we also lost Courtney at the same time, because we didn't think that this is as far as it would have gone.
Okay, so now one thing in here that makes me wonder this, and again, it all depends on the dynamics here, because a lot of times it depends on the dynamics of friends, how close friends are, that kind of thing. You never know what goes on behind closed doors, right? And so I'm not trying to sit here and say that someone's right, wrong, or indifferent with what these particular people are saying, but I've learned enough to know that you never know what's going on behind closed doors. So I'm very curious to know if more people come forward with more evidence. Remember when Alexa Sharkey, and this is another influencer, personality person, who left the earth all too soon because at the hands of her husband, her friends were coming through and kind of piecing the story together. It was now this is somewhat happening, but this is very gray, right? Because right now we're kind of getting the opposite story from people that know them, where they're saying, this guy wouldn't do this, right? He wouldn't put her in this position. So that's definitely suspect to me. So anyways, let's continue forward. Now, apparently they had broken up last month. Her mother was visiting to kind of help her out. Apparently she was afraid to even leave the apartment. This is all alleged, because he was trying to find different ways to get in the building. He was hanging out and sleeping, I guess, in the common areas and whatnot. So there's that. Now, also on Friday, April 1st, Miami police, and this is just, days ago, well, at this point, 10 days ago, Friday, April 1st, Miami police were called to the apartment because of a domestic dispute. Miami police officers noticed bruises on Clenny's arms and legs. Law enforcement sources told Miami Herald, but no arrests were made at that time. 2 days later, this situation happens, right? Now, she claims, so I'm just reading my notes here. So Clenny claimed she stabbed Saley after he attacked her, pushed her to the ground, and grabbed her neck. This is what the law enforcement told the media. Florida's Stand Your Ground law makes it more challenging to file charges or get convictions when people claim self-defense. So there's that. Now, another thing that I found that is just, I don't even know if it has anything to really, I don't want to say do with this, but it's just information that's out there at this point. It's these previous run-ins with the law that she's had. One of them was for a DUI. This was back in September 16th, 2020, Austin, Texas. I was driving under the influence, and she was scheduled for a pre-trial on June 15th. So this was, coming up or whatever. The bond was set at $8,000. She had to do one of those locking devices or whatever on her car to check your blood alcohol level. Now there's also another situation, this is in Texas, where a woman had accused her of causing personal injury, property damage, vehicle loss following a car crash, something like that. This is back in 2018, but apparently that suit was dismissed and they settled out of court or something like that. So there's that. Now also another thing that I saw popping off today, which is kind of what got my focus on this case. She was spotted at, and let's see here, where is it? It was at a Miami hotel room. I think it was the Grand Hotel in Miami. It was with her father. And really what you saw, and I'm going to put a clip up here in a minute. And in fact, before we even talk about it, or before I talk about it, let me just go ahead and play the clip so we can kind of discuss here. Because the comment section was over the top.
Yeah, and they're seeking justice.
Typing, sir?
Yeah,
What?
let's all videotape her. Right now, you should go. Yeah, you should go. Because you just know her boyfriend. Yeah, you did. Yeah, and yeah. Okay, cool.
So you see that the person posted, not this fool being out at a bar in Miami, like she didn't just take out Toby Saley a few days ago, but I thought you were mentally unstable and suicidal. It's the audacity for me. Now, when she was being interviewed, let's backtrack because I'm not sure if I said it. When all this went down, she was interviewed, all this type of stuff. She had talked about being unstable, maybe wanted to harm herself, and so she was Baker acted. Now, obviously, she's been out and whatnot. So this scene that we just watched took place at the lobby in a hotel room. Now, I'm going to read a statement from her lawyer, and let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll discuss this. Because I've got some things to say about it. Okay, let's see here. Okay, so this is back to the lawyer, Frank. And actually, let me scroll back up in this article right here. And I'm going to link all this kind of stuff down here so you can go read through it if you want to. It was the Grand Beach Hotel. It's her and her father they've been seen getting up. Yes. It's another guest demands that they leave. Definitely heard that. Okay, so let's see. Frank Prieto, that is the attorney, he told Fox News Digital Saturday that her and her father were staying at the hotel on Miami Beach's Collins Avenue because they were cooperating with the Miami Police's department investigation of the incident, and that she didn't want to stay at the Miami apartment where this situation occurred last weekend. Now, I'm going to quote him directly. It's unfortunate that It is unfortunate that a member of the public, knowing absolutely nothing about the circumstances and events surrounding the death of Mr. Saley, would take the opportunity to harass the Clenny family during a time when they are trying to be supportive of Courtney, he said. Courtney was seated at a table in the hotel lobby area where there is also a bar. Courtney's father was standing there trying to order a drink to take outside so they could be in private on the beach. And let's see, does he say anything else? The attorney claimed Courtney is a victim of physical, emotional, and mental abuse at the hands of her, late boyfriend, based on his firm's investigation of the incident. Now, of course, this is her attorney. He's obviously going to say that. We're also investigating whether Courtney was the victim of human trafficking. We'll see, and I'm not trying to sit here and not believe or whatever, but I have a hard time when it's it's her own attorney saying that. If the police were saying it, I'd be more like, okay. You know what I'm saying? Or somebody else besides that has a vested interest in doing this. You know what I'm saying? Like defending her or whatever. So has a bias, I guess is the better way to say it. It's her attorney, for God's sakes. So there's that. So that's the part that was said about that. So here's the thing about the hotel thing. So when I saw this was on TikTok. Now, if you are on TikTok, you will know that the comment section is brutal, okay? And what TikTok to me is famous for is you'll see a slice of life with no context a lot of times. And it amazes me how people in the comment section will just feel, well, I would have done this or make all these assumptions or whatever. I mean, people were like, how could she be out on a date and da-da-da-da-da? And I'm just like... and even when I first saw it, I was like, I think that's her dad, but I didn't know until I scratched beneath the surface or whatever. But a lot of people don't take the time to do that, right? And so they just make these assumptions and go off, and they're just like hating on her, and at this point, I'm just like, look, we don't really know. I mean, we know she took his life at this point, right? But we don't know what 100% happened. What I have seen so far, and in a minute we're going to listen to what his family has to say. It sounds like they had a tumultuous relationship no matter how you cut it. Now, does that mean that there was like, oh my gosh, it sounds like this incredibly abusive situation going on? I don't know. I mean, there's not enough evidence yet. I think it's interesting she has not been arrested, right? I think it's very interesting she has not been arrested yet. I do think that the investigation is still hopefully going on to find out. I think it's interesting that this guy is saying, oh, well, I saw, her being the one who is a victim. I think it's interesting that she has friends even saying, which I would hold weight more with that, I think, than the neighbor. And I also question with the neighbor, I'm like, well, how often are you looking in their windows? You know what I'm saying? Like, I have questions for him too, right? As to how much he sees that, because for all we know, he's like, well, I saw her being abused. Okay, but are you always watching them? You know what I'm saying? Like, what if she is an abuser, right? Because this happens, this goes two ways. We just don't know, right? So we're just gonna have to wait and see. So that being said, let's hear from his family now.
They flew in from Texas, unfortunately learned of his death when a medical examiner contacted them requesting permission to donate the organs. That's how they learned of his sudden death.
Can you imagine getting a phone call and the way you find out about a loved one, and anyone for that matter that you cared about, that the way they passed is, someone calling to see if they wanted to be an organ donor? And so let's continue to listen what other members of the family have to say. Now that wasn't a member of the family. That was the attorney, I believe. But let's continue to listen to the actual family.
He was a friend to everyone. Very caring, funny, very bright. He had big dreams.
Abu Masali's brother says he wants to see an arrest.
I do believe she is the killer, and she does need to be arrested.
Devastation doesn't quite describe what my family's experiencing right now. Yesterday, we finally told our 93-year-old grandmother that her grandson, who was expected to come home to Texas to visit for his 28th birthday, will no longer or ever be returning home.
Again, can you imagine? I mean, my God, it's just awful. So this is one of those, again, because we don't have all the information yet, this is one of those, not odd cases, but it's odd because, to me, I guess I'd say odd because I'm sitting here wondering, like, okay, well, I want more information, right? Are we dealing with, a girl who flew off the handle and attacked someone who, this wasn't like a non-self-defense situation, basically, right? Can they prove that? Is there evidence to show that? Are we dealing with somebody who was habitually abusing her and she was fighting for her life and did what she had to do, right? You know what I'm saying? Because, that just changes the level of sympathy, right? You know what I'm saying? Because it is what it is. So I'm very curious to see what comes of this, how the evidence portrays this, what the investigation reveals, and how they're able to do that. Because again, I think that this could be very complicated. I think it's very interesting to see this neighbor talking about, oh, I saw this. Someone has this footage of her. I mean, basically from her balcony in her bedroom. It sounds like there was drama popping off over there on a regular basis, right? I mean, again, like I said, it sounds like there is evidence to show that there was definitely some tumultuous times with this couple. Now if that paints like a systemic, habitual pattern of abuse, I mean, we will soon see, right? So there's that. I'm curious to see what you think. What other information have y'all learned about this that we might not have covered in this video? Drop it down in the comments. And let me know your thoughts on this. So that's it. I'm going to sign off. It's kind of late night here. I wanted to just put my thoughts out here on this while they are fresh. Like I said, this is Sunday. I was looking over this and I just was kind of like all over with it. Just because it's very fresh and she, I shouldn't say it like I'm expecting it. But she hasn't been charged yet, right? Nobody's been charged yet. So I'm very curious to see where this goes. So anyways, that's it. I appreciate y'all for being here. Let me know what you think down in the comment section and I'll talk to you soon.